Brought to you by Penguin.
A Beautiful Game by Sven-Göran Eriksson and Bengt Berg. Read by John Sackville. Chapter 1. Torsby IF. In Torsby, as in most communities in the Swedish countryside, it was important to stand with both feet on the ground, not to think that you were better or more worthy than anybody else. And preferably, those feet should meet the ground via the grass of a football pitch, the running tracks of a sports ground, or ski boots. Because in the Torsby of my childhood, in the 1950s and 1960s, everything centred on sports. At Björnevi Sports Ground, Blue and White Torsby IF played their home matches, and they still do. To us children, the arena seemed gigantic, with the PA speakers blaring music before matches and at half-time. But football wasn't the only sport. The local high jump star, Kjell-Åke Nilsson, practiced his diving style in the evenings until darkness fell. But we also looked out over the larger world of sports, which came to northern Värmland with the help of radio and, of course, newsstands, like the one where Mum worked, selling magazines like Rekordmagasinet, Idrottsbladet, and Avsport. The Eriksson family lived in a flat on Ostmark Road. It had one room and a kitchen, home to my dad, Sven, my mum, Ulla, and later my little brother, Lars-Erik, Lasse. I had to sleep on the kitchen sofa. It was crowded, and Mum dreamt about something larger. Dad didn't think we could afford to move, so he and Mum asked my paternal grandparents to provide a surety for them, so they could borrow money from the bank. Grandpa and Grandma weren't rich, but they owned forests and land, so they could clearly put up a security. But no, we didn't get any help. Mum held a grudge against them after that. There was never a really good relationship between them. That might also have something to do with the fact that, during the first 2 years of my life, they didn't know I existed. I was definitely not planned. Dad worked on the bus between Sunne and Torsby. He sold tickets, and he was 18, 19 years old when I was born. Mum was 3 years older and lived in Sunne, but worked in Torsby. She took that bus every day, and, of course, they took a liking to each other as they travelled the country roads. Dad had a guilty conscience about not telling his parents when I was born. I don't think they even knew that Mum and Dad were together. During those 2 years, Mum lived alone in a one-room flat with me. The building had only one toilet, which was shared by 5 or 6 families, and there was no shower. I was as damned immature as a person can be when I became a father, says my dad, even today. He was ashamed of this as long as Mum was alive. He never fought with her. I never even heard them grumble about each other. This might have had something to do with the first years of my life. Even though they didn't get any help, Mum was dead set on moving anyway. She was a strong-willed woman, and she knew that there were cheap plots for sale in Torsby. She seized the opportunity, and they built a house with 4 rooms and a kitchen. We moved in at Easter time in 1959, when I was 11 years old. We were hard up, but she had succeeded. Mum worked in a fabric shop a while, and then started at the GDG newsstand, right next to the train station. She worked there for many years. Then, for reasons I've never understood, she became a nurse's assistant and worked primarily nights at the hospital. This was practical, because it was just across the street from our house. Dad was first a conductor with a bus company that was owned by my paternal grandmother's brother. Then he started driving the bus instead, before he got a job as a truck driver. His last job was as a factotum at the shopping centre Toria, where he was in charge of the garden and the mail service, among other things. By then, Mum and Dad lived in a fine house on Hergårdsviken in Torsby, just before the pond and the rapids, towards Lake.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?